Welcome to another episode on the People Productivity Channel, where you are the product and a better you is a solution. Today, I have on an old friend, Gary Beach. Gary is an author, former Wall Street Journal columnist. I know, Gary, maybe you still do that. We'll find out. Former CIO, publisher emeritus for CIO Magazine, and just a great guy. And we're here today to talk about the lifelong learning era. Are you ready? So, Gary, when we were chatting, we both got book contracts around the same time. Our books came out almost the same time. You were working on a book on education, looking at the skills gap,
Right.
the U.S. technology skills gap. So what kind of motivated you to dig into that side of the challenges here today?
Well, I was at it's good to be with you, Frank.
Yeah,
As
thank you for
always,
coming on.
it's always good. I was at a conference in Cincinnati. It was a
Uh-huh.
cold day, and the CIO for Procter and Gamble was the keynote. And this conference was on workforce development. So at the time, Abby Lundberg was my editor, and she sent me an email saying, "Gary, your column is due, at end of business today. I look forward to it." And I'm going, "Oh, darn it, I haven't written it yet."
Yeah.
So the CIO of Procter gets up there, and I'm just going to read the first paragraph of what he said to the audience. And he asked them, and I asked the viewers to listen to this, and I'll pause at the end of the first couple of sentences and have you think about who wrote it and when did they write it.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is what that CIO said. "Our nation is at risk. Our once unchallenged preeminence in commerce, industry, science, and technology innovation is being overtaken by competitors throughout the world. What is unimaginable a generation ago has begun to occur. Our other countries are matching and surpassing our educational attainments." So those viewing, who said it and when? And everybody in the audience, not everybody, but many people said this was 2007.
Mhm.
It was 2 years after Tom Friedman had written The World is Flat.
Yep.
People would say, "Oh, it's Tom Friedman." And the CIO speaker from P&G goes, "Well, thank you for venturing your guess, but that's not right. The answer is it was the Department of Education in 1983 that wrote a report called A Nation at Risk."
Mhm.
And this was basically a report countering the efforts that the Japanese economy had made in automation and all the other things. But it got me thinking. So I wrote a column about it.
Yeah.
And generally my columns would get 10 responses. This one got 50 from
Okay.
CIOs. I go, this is interesting. So I
Sure.
put together a follow-up column, cobbling together some of the comments, and that one got 500. So then I started a 6-year journey of research, and that's the same year your book came out. That's how I got interested in the concept of the skills gap, which back then I was fortuitous in terms of that topic because that was 6 months before the Great Recession hit.
Yeah. And, now, of course, we have other challenges and we see workers challenged by the changes in the work environment and the fact that so many jobs are going to be displaced. And really, we're in this era they call of continuous learning,
Yes.
right? So lifelong learning era. So, you've spent a lot of time, studying the environment, studying the business environment, writing about it, having columns. How do you see this skills gap that you talked about back in your book relating to the worker today?
Well, there's upsides and downsides. But let me just give you some data that at the moment, there's a company called Burning Glass Technologies, claims that here in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
there are almost 600,000 jobs, IT jobs, that have been posted for 90 days or longer. Now, that could be viewed as a positive by IT workers saying, well, that's plentiful opportunities for employment. It could also be considered a a critique of the skills of the current IT workers, that the employers say they have these jobs and no one's showing up that has those skills.
Or a critique of the educational system.
Oh, yeah, we could talk about that in a moment.
Mm.
I would like to. But I think the continual learning aspect, what it does, to your point, it puts a enormous pressure point on individuals to be responsible for their learning. And you and I have had this conversation before,
Yeah.
where I personally feel continual or lifelong is almost redundant with the word learning. That it's 6 weeks we're learning. Scientists have proved this, and what we're going through now has just put a huge premium on the need, with so much new technology coming at us with fire hoses, that for to be employed going forward. Because now what we have that's different is, and then you're right, we also have spoken about this, that things like these eras, the PC era and the mainframe and all the other stuff, but this time it feels different, because I believe that these emerging technologies, many of them are run by AI or robotics or machine learning. It's humans will be competing with machines more so now in the future than they had in the past.
Yeah, without a doubt. And certainly, this is the history of automation, right? You start with certain things that are easier to automate, and, eventually we move up this curve to more and more complex types of work.
Absolutely. And
that's what's been happening.
If viewers can discreetly put their jobs into, can segment their job into discrete segments, those are the jobs that will lend themselves more quickly to automation than those that don't. But I don't want to sound like I'm a pessimist here, because I'm not. That these jobs might be going away here, but there's jobs over on this side that are being created. And one of the big areas that I'm excited about, but it's around the corner, so to speak, that it's not going to be impacting spreadsheets and budget plans for viewers for the next 2 or 3 years at the earliest. And that's the era of quantum computing, which is going to make traditional computing that we're in right now, this era of zeros and ones, quantum. And I'm not a physicist, but a quantum machine.
Sure, trillions of instructions.
You got it. It can recognize zeros, it can recognize ones, and it can recognize both at the same time, which is incredible. But so the whole aspect of learning, continual learning, lifelong learning, I think the responsibility is going to be on the individual, because the education system is taking a long time to catch up. It's very much tethered, in my opinion, at least in structure, to what we had in the 17th century England.
Oh, yeah.
Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, teacher in the front, kids in the seats. I'm the teacher, I'm spouting out knowledge, you're learning. And now it's people have been talking about for a decade or so this concept called the flipped classroom, where the students work collaboratively and by themselves to learn, and the teacher is a enhancer. Yeah, a coach. Yeah,
they're the coach, helping them learn, find out better ways of learning. And honestly, that type of instruction, instilling that type of mindset into the kids, really puts them into the right mindset for today, which is you're responsible for your own learning, and here's how you do it. Because there's so many things that people can do, they can dig into, they can learn, and pursue careers in fields where there are going to be opportunities. The fact of the matter is they need to find out what they're really good and excited about, and find a way to get into that, I think.
Well, there's 2 things I want to draft off on that. I'm just going to write this down. One is the Institute for the Future. And then second I have here is passion. Viewers, if you just write down iftf.org, it'll take you to the Institute for the Future. It's a think tank in Silicon Valley. And when you get on there, look for the Workforce 2020 skills. Now, you would think, since Frank and I are sitting here in October 2020, that this report was written this year. Well, we're off by 10 years. It was written as a forward-thinking piece back in 2010. And in there, when you go to that website and you click on Workforce 2020, you will see the most marvelous, like, poker chips of I have it here. It's not, you can't see it all that well, but these are all skills.
Hold it up a little higher. Higher.
Okay. Oh, I see there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can't see them all that well. You're right.
No, but iftf.org, but in the past, we've thought about discrete skills of being proficient in math, proficient in science, proficient in reading, what have you. And we talked a lot about what are pejoratively called soft skills. People talk about them as the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. And those are all good. What the Institute for the Future does, it melds those two. And so you have mindsets, you have skill sets here of the importance of having a design mindset, the importance of being able to work. This is for workers and skills and lifelong learning, cross-cultural competency. So they're able to work, we're in a global economy here. Virtual collaboration, everybody has been doing that with COVID. Computational thinking, how can you make sense of massive amounts of data? This is one of my favorite charts, even though it's 10 years old. The other word I had written down here, you got me thinking of it. I can't get back to why I tied it to you, but I think it's important that I saw Ginny Rometty, who, when she was CEO of IBM, speak at a conference. And she was talking about, because she was very passionate about the topic of education. And she had come up with this concept, in fact, called new collar, where we have blue collar jobs and we have white collar jobs. And what some people call these are middle skill jobs, but she called them new collar jobs. And these are jobs that you don't need a college degree to get on the entrance ramp to do that. And in that 20-minute talk she gave, somewhere in it, she paused and looked into the audience and said, never ask a worker or a child. This is more of a child thing right now. Never ask a child, what do you want to do when you grow up? She paused and she said, the answer is, the only thing you ask a child is what problem, what passion, what's your passion for a problem you want to solve? Because if a child or a worker is passionate about a challenge, then that's going to backfill whether that worker goes on and enrolls in a MOOC or enrolls in a digital badge program, what have you.
I always love the people who work for us in IT that just loved it. They breathed it every day. They went home at night and had their own network set up and computers and they were doing stuff. And they were really go-to people. It was that passion and love that made them just the best, because it wasn't work to put extra time into it. It was fun.
And how do you measure passion? I mean, there's not a Myers-Briggs kind of program where you can get the 5 letters and gee, Frank and Gary are passionate. You're absolutely right. Passion is a key component.
It's an innate attraction. I mean, it's just the way you're wired. You're attracted to that. And
some managers I find don't like it, because people who are passionate and curious, which also I find to be a very important personality trait. Some managers I found in my career, I don't want someone curious on my team. They're always questioning, asking this, why are we doing it this way? Why are we doing it that way? Projects get stalled and over budget. If I were a CIO, I'd like to have my entire staff be curious.
I think that, people should get curious about where the world and business is going and what are the types of jobs, because there's tons of sites and books and other things you can read that give you a good framework to think about the future and what's coming. These core technologies,
Oh,
artificial intelligence, machine learning, 3D printing, all the technologies coming out to create much more effective teamwork and collaboration. These are the things that are really going to drive, business.
oh,
And
absolutely.
we're in this era of innovation, this digital era.
It's,
And certainly people should, I agree with you, curiosity is of vital importance to everybody. If they're not curious, if one of our listeners isn't curious about stuff, start looking into the future of work and where things are going. Your job may be at risk.
oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and where folks can,
Mhm.
who are curious and are passionate, I'll tell you a story. A number of years ago, I was interviewing the CIO for SAP
Mhm.
at their sales meeting. And we're behind the curtain before we go out on
Yeah.
stage. And this guy, this is '07. I remember it clearly because Twitter had come out 1 year before. And he asked me, do I use Twitter? And I said, well, when it came out, I did. But then I got tired of getting tweets about colleagues and friends who were sending something out on Friday afternoon saying, I'm at the fish store. Should I buy scallops or scrod? I
Yeah.
said, it's a waste of time. So I didn't use it. And he looked at me and he goes, Twitter is my major source of news.
Mhm.
And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, when you have passion about a particular topic, what he does, he will go in the Twitter search box and type in your passion for IT, whatever.
Mhm.
And what will be returned are individuals on Twitter who match to that search criteria.
Sure. And you can follow them.
Yeah. Well, you look at what they post.
Yeah. Mhm.
And what this guy also said, you just got me thinking, never post a tweet that doesn't have a link. So never follow somebody who they might be writing good tweets, but if there's no links, it's you want to be able to link on something and then file it someplace. So that to me is one good source, as is LinkedIn. And one of my favorites, I use it often to get ideas for columns, is Google Alerts.
Mhm. Google Alerts is great.
Oh, it's if you particularly narrow it down, sometimes it'll serve back too many, and you're spending an hour going through your Google Alert box. But if you hone it down well, uh, it can be a good source, a credible source of information about a topic you're passionate about that you're working at
Mhm.
your job on.
Yeah, and people with passion, they can certainly start blogging on things,
Sure.
researching them, digging into them, have a point of view, be found by others, join communities of people who are working on those things. So it is about that curiosity, discovering what's out there, finding your passion and following it.
Oh yeah. And
And
again, but it gets back to the flipped education model, the
Mhm.
learning model, that
Yes.
it's right here, that the it's in you to determine what you want to learn, how fast you want to learn it, and potentially maybe just learning it for uh, your own sake, or you can learn it for monetary sake in terms of getting another job.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then, there's Udemy.
Yeah.
That's another
Oh,
great education
absolutely.
site. I mean, incredible amount of stuff out there.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, I mean, people need to ignite passion somehow and, start to pursue other interests if they see that the world may be actually eventually automating what they're doing. At any rate, they should pursue their passion regardless.
Absolutely. Why
I
do
think,
it? Life is short.
yeah. 2020 has shown us one thing, expect the unexpected. And I think that's going to be the way the world operates for the next few years anyway.
Oh,
We're
absolutely.
certainly we're certainly not going to be in a calm period of stability. That doesn't appear to be on the horizon right now.
No, and the great pause that COVID-19 has caused in the global economy
Yeah.
it has changed it forever in ways of how we're going to do business, where we're going to do business. We haven't used the magic word here in this conversation. That's customer. Workers who are passionate and intellectually curious, wanting to do their job, or doing it, because they like it, but also because it's enhancing the work of their colleagues internally, or enhancing the experience that a customer, external customer, or supply chain partner is going to have with the company. And well from your expertise in turnaround companies that customer satisfaction is key. So I think
It's number one.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
nothing else matters.
no, and I think the great pause is going to be looked back on by historians, for the horrible aspect it's done in terms of health and people passing away, but how it changed business forever.
Yeah, radically.
It's
certainly, we see tons of jobs being eliminated, out in the market all the time. Lots of small, medium-sized businesses disappearing. But, in their wake, new things are going to come along. That's the history of the world.
It is, and between that is the four-letter word pain, and it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, but and that because that's one of the things that you mentioned, small, medium-sized business. That's the fabric of the IT market. I mean, the small and medium-sized IT companies, not the big, humongous ones that everybody knows by first name basis, but
they're the innovators.
Ones, often where you see the innovation coming and have the smartest people.
That's where the innovation is going to come from. Those new breakthrough products.
Right.
That really make a difference.
And it's I think the bill, and that's not the right word, but the pause created by COVID is having companies look at how they do business. And I've seen it myself just on reaching out to companies that I personally do business with, in terms of whether it's a telephone company or a bank, or how effective they are in answering my phone calls or helping me navigate through on a chat box with something that has to be done to correct something on my account. And some companies are doing it well, and some companies are not. And the other word I think that's very important, going forward, is senior managers who create cultures of learning.
Yes.
They're going to create firms
inspiring growth in their people.
Yes, they're going to be the ones that are going to be successful. And it's one of my favorite sayings was, when I've talked to CIOs over the years, I can't tell you how many times some of them have said to me, why should I train? Number one, I don't like the word train. You train animals, you don't train people.
No, you inspire them to
develop them.
Yeah.
But they would say to me, why should I train people? Because as soon as I train them, they're going to leave. The flip side of that is, what's the phrase, not the joke, but the proverb is, what would you prefer? Have a staff that you trained and left, or a staff that you didn't train and they stayed?
Yeah. Yeah. And
so I'll take the first one.
What if you train them and build a culture that they want to stay in?
Yeah. I mean, it's
that's
little things.
I mean, there is a CIO who just doesn't get it, right? If people are leaving, they're leaving because of the bad culture in that environment.
Right.
So, that attitude, I'm not going to train anybody, is one aspect of why they're leaving. They're leaving that management structure and those people. So that person was an idiot. He had no clue about culture, talent, and how to build a culture where people want to come, put down roots, and stay, because that's what it's all about.
And small companies can compete with big ones. I wrote about a Seattle-based dog sitting service, and they were competing for website developer with Amazon and Microsoft. Good luck.
Yeah.
And they certainly didn't have the money to pay what those two companies could do. But what they did instead, in terms of hiring that web developer, they made it an internal hire, but an internal incentive program saying if you refer a web developer to the company and that person is hired and stays 3 months, you get a free puppy. And that's something Microsoft or Amazon couldn't do. I mean, you can go out with the money you made there and buy a puppy if you wanted, but creative things like that you see
Yeah.
all over the
That I've
place.
never seen. You get a puppy. People
Yeah, I
prefer
mean,
the money.
it's and other companies are McKesson. I think she's still CIO there. Kathy McElligott. She has cross sort of free agent teams, she calls them.
Mhm.
So she'll have her web developers here, and she'll have her AI people here, and she's got her agile people there. And what she purposefully does is just move them around.
Cross-pollinate, huh?
Yeah, and what her underlying theory is she always wants, she calls it the 75-25% rule. Let's say they're working on an agile project. She wants 75% of the team to be familiar with agile,
Mhm.
and 25% have no idea what it is. So people can say, well, doesn't that slow down the others? But it actually enhances the interaction with them as they're learning, because they're coming from another department, might have been marketing,
Sure.
might have been, and they're teaching the agile people something, and it's this cross fertilization.
Spreading
She
good
finds
practices. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
So what else do you think in terms of being the lifelong learner? Other things people can do? Because we talked about curiosity and passion. This is something that, we could talk about all we want, but people have to take action, right? They've got to really
Well,
think about it and start to think about their future a little bit.
well, that's a good question, and the not so simple answer is it has to become a habit in terms of
Mhm.
wanting to learn, and passion for learning. And each and every day when they go to work, they ask, or maybe they're not going to work, they're doing something at their house, but the human trait of a habit is, I think, what they need, because it's obvious if you know more, you're going to
Mhm.
do more. But if you just can't go on Monday and Tuesday and say, oh, I'm gonna learn, be passionate about new stuff, and then not do it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It has to become part of your personal and work DNA.
Yes, I think you're on the money with that. A habit really matters.
Mm-hmm.
Habits drive us forward and
Right.
define what we do every day. So,
And they crash us down too if we don't do it.
yes, bad habits bring you down without a doubt. So, that whole notion of creating a habit around exploring and learning is really a good one.
Yeah, I mean, who am I to say? I've just been an observer, been very fortunate to have a front row seat on this. But uh, now I think the imperative for humans to learn is right there in their face in terms of, as we talked about in this conversation,
Yeah, and it's
machine.
immediate.
Yeah, I mean, there's a new competitor on the block that wasn't there in discrete, smaller components. We've had AI for 40 years, but not the kind of AI that is
Well, and
developing
you
now.
add in the quantum computing when that really does become real, the speed of that computing to really drive AI and other things that can start to tackle very complex things.
Well, that's a good point. And what's going to happen though is, from what I read, and I tend to subscribe to this theory. Let's say you and I are working at company XYZ, a Fortune 500 company.
Mhm.
We're probably not going to go out and buy a quantum computer. What we're going to do, it's going to follow the cloud model.
Oh, sure, everything will be in the cloud. There's
It'll
no
be a
question.
subscription service. But what it puts a premium on, Frank, it puts an absolute premium on companies having digitally literate workforces, whether or not they're in IT.
Mhm.
Because those curious people are going to be able to ask questions that the quantum computer can answer. And so they're not going to need a quantum physics degree from MIT to use these machines. They'll just need a curiosity and a passion to solve customer pain and to find something new.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to be the ability to really do that machine learning on it,
Absolutely.
because speed matters when it comes to machine learning. One of the things that really held it up over the years was processor speed.
Yes.
These are compute intensive functions. So that's going to really speed up these trends that are already underway. And, that's what this comes down to. It's expect the unexpected. Things are going to be unstable. Things are going to change quicker than people can imagine, right? It's never going to be the way it was. We're in a new era of time and it's different and a fascinating time. So Gary, any parting thoughts for our audience?
Just be vigilant and passionate about learning. And it's really, really a wonderful thing to be. You'll be more interesting. You'll be more employable. You'll make more money. You'll have more fun. And maybe you'll change the world.
That's right. If you find your passion, you could change the world. That's
Right?
exactly right. But that passion will spill over, the world will see it. And that's, the law of attraction will take over. People will be attracted to it.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah. So, hey, find your passion, explore the world, reinvent yourself. This is the days we're in. So, hey, Garrett, thanks for coming on, buddy. Appreciate it.
Frank, it's my pleasure. See you
Yeah,
soon.
always a pleasure. See you soon. Take care. Bye.